Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Matthew, and today we're doing another figure comparison video between two NECAs. Today we have the NECA Godzilla 19. I was about to say 1995. No. This is 2019 Burning Godzilla V3, and this is the NECA Godzilla 2024 Godzilla Evolved, the bootleg figure. Um, this is just going to be again another general figure comparison between the two figures. Uh, Essentially the bootleg versus the original, even though it was copped off V3, this is still an original mold, so yeah. We're going to be primarily taking a look at, the basics, skeleton paint, articulation, size, accessories, price, availability, and packaging. And essentially, we've got a bit more to talk about this go round because of the differences between him and V2 from last time. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Starting off, the sculpt and paint on the head. Uh, Again, we've been through with the evolved Godzilla like several times, so we'll just kind of brush through it. Let's start up with the head. The jaw on the of course, the bottom jaw is there, but it's really faded because of how many times the thing was bootlegged. In fact, we don't even know if this was a bootleg of a bootleg or just a bootleg of the original V2. But as you can see, there's little tiny bumps where the teeth were on the bottom jaw. But actually having a look, they are there. Most definitely there. And you can actually see some sculpted in teeth, although they are not painted on the top. While we can see on the V3 that there is in fact some actual sculpted teeth and are much more apparent because of the paint that is on there. It is worth noting, however, they're not individually sculpted nor painted. It's just one big slab of peach colored teeth. But however, the top does feature painted and sculpted individual rows of teeth, i.e., kind of varying in quality, but it does look good. The top of the head on the evolved obviously has the standard three lines and a bit of a mismatched pupil, or I guess eyeball, that they couldn't even get applied correctly. And if you just look at it from head on, that is one of the derpiest faces I've seen in Godzilla history. And as for inside the mouth as well, it's entirely the same pink. The tongue is the same pink. The top of the gums is the same pink. The bottom of the jaw is the same pink. It's all the same pink. No variation. Three lines, kind of like eyeliner. There you go. However, there is a bit of variety on this one, as we have a bit of a banana tongue, very white, yellow colored. Also has some orange on the inside of the mouth, which is pretty sweet. The eyes are painted about the same, if not close to the same color as the tongue is, but also has a bit of like an orange kind of fade, almost like a gradient around the eye, which kind of creates like a glowing effect. And then the rest of the head is made from a kind of like a translucent orange ruby pink plastic that kind of has like a lot of dry brushing of black and orange to give it more of a fiery effect as it should. While this one features kind of like a standard black charcoal plastic. Moving on down to the necks of both figures. Here we have a bit of like more variations where it's like much more yellowish orange. It goes to an orange and then goes back to the crispy black orange mix. Well, this one has the pink and then the spray kind of creates like a bit of a gradient back to the black. And then kind of have some like, I think these are like little metallic. I could be just bluffing, but these look like little metallic dry brushings, and then lines on the gills, which don't even like align properly. So that's about the heads and necks. Moving on down to the arms, here we can see that the evolved Godzilla has definitely got a lot of like bit of dry brushing and details going on and really enhancing the sculpt. Of course, all the bumps and crevices you see, and the silver lining really helps to complement the much more darker kind of plastic used. versus the version 3, where it features a translucent plastic again, ruby red, kind of pinkish a little bit, but features some orange dry brushing and black highlights kind of on top of the scales versus the orange which is inside of the scales, and that is kind of more closer to what we saw in the movie. Also, like talking about the size of the body as well, bring the evolved in, we can kind of see like a bit of pink on the side and then kind of fades to the metallic. So I definitely like what they did with the evolution Godzilla or evolved Godzilla. And then here we have it's more like the same dry brushing effect, black on the scales for highlights and the orange inside the scales, and then we have like the scales coming from the fins that look like it's like kind of powering up, which I definitely do appreciate and love about it. Moving on down to the legs here, we can definitely see that the well, obviously the bootleg has a lot more of the dry brushing highlights going on, especially like over here compared to the arms, where it's like all just down to the bottom of the feet, and it honestly brings out a lot of the great detail versus how it would look if it was just plain plastic. And the version 3 kind of does a similar thing again with the black and orange, however, kind of fades a little bit once we get from here to here and then to the leg, which it or sorry the foot, where it doesn't have too much of the black. You can still see some of the black, but it features a lot of like the ruby red and orange kind of color scheme, especially like when we get to this vein, which like kind of courses through, kind of splits off like a Y, if you were to flip it like upside down diagonally. And then you can kind of get all the way down here, and it just looks really good, especially with all that black and orange kind of seeping through together. Scrolling on down to the tails here, and we've got quite a bit of to talk about. Of course, we got the version 3, which has basically got the edge when it comes to like the color consistency and application, because it's got a lot more color here, not just with the fins, because it's mixing orange and yellow together, and it looks very chaotic and pretty erratic, which I do like because you got some like major kind of yellows and oranges, and then you got like the oranges from the body kind of like seeping through and highlighting some of that. And then you have the sides of it, which carry on from the body, black kind of highlights for the skin, and the orange kind of highlighting in betweens. And if you look at the bottom, more of the same thing. In fact, there's actually highlights to where the tail meets the sides of the tail. And then we get to the evolved Godzilla, and again, looks more like a pastry than it does like actual seeping power, because this just looks like strawberry icing on a cake. But as you can see, it's very pink. It mixes a lot of white. I see what they were trying to do, like accomplish that effect, but especially like here when it gets too cake, like this doesn't look like powered up. This looks more like bone. Like I feel like here they got a little too heavy-handed, and especially like within the gaps of it, it just doesn't look as refined as it should, even though it is a bootleg. And at the bottom here, we got some of the nice silver, although the pink does kind of bleed onto it, which is kind of a bummer, but c'est la vie. But of course, both feature the same mold, so honestly, that's the tails. And finally, let's talk about the fins. The fins on V3, I've heckled them in the past before because they just kind of look off, because it's half red, which looks almost unpainted, then half orange, and then half yellow. I would chalk that down to an error, but all the fins are like that. Even where it's like right here, and it looks like where, well, hold on, where it looks like it almost just doesn't work, and then we have like a little bit of paint splotch. This is definitely a mistake, but I'll forgive it. But the inside fins just look so phenomenal. They have like a black kind of dry brush and then like a red. It's very hard to see, but they have like red on the interiors, which just look more like blood than anything. But it looks so cool that mixes with the yellow and the orange, especially like the yellow illuminating. I think that's they were kind of trying to, what they were trying to go for, but to me the fins just on the V3 just don't look as powerful as they should, but they definitely do connect the the veins pretty well. Meanwhile, the evolved bootleg Godzilla, definitely does not do that same effect. I will say this, like as far as the application itself goes, it might be a bit better than this. But that's all I can really say because it's still caked on. It looks more like a pastry than an actual energized, fired up Godzilla, which is the way it should look. Although, again, the pink definitely is very shiny, so it gives off a nice shining effect. But really, it's all about your personal preference. So, overall, for sculpting paint, the V3 definitely has a lot of good qualities with minimal, I would say, minimal problems. That being maybe like the application itself of the spines aren't necessarily the best on some of them. But the especially like something with the evolved, it does try in a lot of areas, but also kind of gives up in a lot of others. So, but that's the general rundown of the sculpting paint.